Welcome to a bonus video featuring the Eternal format. A couple weeks back, Eternal format got hijacked on Monday, so it's Eternal format's turn to take over the standard slot. So Eternal format here. We're going to look at a tier list for the Surging Sparks format for the Eternal format. So last time we did one of these was Twilight Masquerade, I believe. It's been a minute.
Yes.
It's been quite a while. So we've seen decks come in and out. The ban list has been updated a couple of times. Surprisingly, not actually that many changes. Like noteworthy changes like Area Zero and Dragapult, but besides those, not.
I miss my Dragapult.
Yeah. Well, you have a different Dragapult now. It's okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we're gonna basically do what we did last time. We're gonna kind of see this list here of different archetypes in the Eternal format, and we're gonna kind of talk briefly about each one of them and figure out where we think it should be. Up first, we have Skill Copy Box or Alakazam Star.
Um, I've played against it, or a version of it.
I feel like placing it in. Well, what are we basing it off of? Like what the
How it could perform
I
against other decks.
I feel like it could. As of right now, I feel like it could start at like a B tier.
You think it's actually a B? Because my debate was between 3 and straight up bad.
Or
Because you have S, 1, 2, 3, and bad.
Is it like actual like tier 1?
No,
two,
I
is that what you're
actually-
saying?
I'd say put it at a 3 because from when I've played against it, you can do so much with it, but it's also very easy to kind of play around it and kind of counter it depending on which version it is. So I feel like it all ultimately really depends on which version of Alakazam Starbox it is.
You were going to say something, Caleb?
I have no opinions on this stuff.
No opinions. All right, next up is Alcremie.
I have zero idea.
I
about this
also
deck.
have no.
So, okay, so I can vouch for this one. This is a deck very similar to Toxtricity, but it's actually slightly more consistent because it's not reliant on having a react energy attached. So Alcremie has the attack that does a bunch of damage based on the basic energy in play. And the way this one works is there's a Ditto you play, and you attach a basic energy to that Ditto, and that basic energy basically becomes a basic rainbow energy.
Okay.
So I think it's probably tier 2. Like it's not.
I have no idea on that because
I will be the one to rank this one, and
seen it and I haven't played. I
It's-
haven't played or played against it.
I would say it's a higher end of tier 2, but still tier 2. Articuno Lock. Articuno Lock's kind of been missing in action.
My whole thing with Articuno Lock is I feel like it's similar in a way to Banette Vileplume, where when people forget that it exists
It
and
does
it
really
pops up, it will really destroy them. But then the next week, when people know like it exists, it underperforms because they know it exists still now.
So that just said you
So-
out loop, right? Does well, doesn't do well. Does well, doesn't do well.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like if people forget about it for a while, run it, you'll probably win with it because people are not used to playing against it anymore. And then the next like month you have to not play it because
And you think Bayonet falls in that same?
Banette is definitely stronger than it. I will say that.
You think so?
I actually do think so because it ultimately depends also on your pricing, ultimately on Articuno Lock.
And you've played against Articuno Lock at least.
I mean, I've played against it
You guys
and
both
I haven't
have.
built.
I have the legendary Thornton into execute.
Yes, I remember.
I do think that Articuno it can be easier to set up a lock than Banette, but I feel like Banette is still technically better.
So then, are we thinking upper tier 2?
I was thinking high tier 2, yeah.
Yeah. Because it's definitely not a tier 3 because it definitely.
No, I don't think it belongs. My debate in my mind
I
was
would
low
definitely-
tier 1, high tier 2.
I mean, I'm still gonna say Buffalo Creamy, but again, I have not played or seen that deck, so I cannot say anything on the Creamy.
Up next is Bayonet Omastar. I think Bayonet Omastar absolutely crashed when Greens got hit.
I mean that's more of you question because I haven't played that version. I know you have. But I
think
will still say Banette Vileplume is better.
it's way better. I think at best it's in tier 3. Do you have opinions on this one, Caleb?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not.
Yeah.
Great.
It's not. good.
I do agree with it being like the same with when Greens got hit. It took a big hit. I mean, there's
It
a
got
lot
hit
of decks
hard.
that got hit really hard. I think the only one that didn't really get hit hard, like hard as like we were thinking it would have been, was
Urshifu. Yeah.
Because Urshifu just literally replaced Greens with Arven, and it was still perfect.
Arven or Karina, depending on the build, but yeah, either one.
And honestly, it almost actually made it easier for Urshifu because there was times where Urshifu honestly seemed like it didn't even want Greens.
Yeah. How do we feel about Vaynet Vileplume? Is we think it's tier 1 still?
Yeah, I still consider it tier 1.
It's like
Because I wouldn't consider.
I don't think it's upper tier 1.
It's not S tier because like
oh
I
no, it's
said,
definitely not S.
I mean, especially when I played against Dell, you could really see where that back and forth was. But if Dell's pricing was not as bad as it was, it definitely would have lost. Also, my mistake for not running rare candies. But, that has since been changed.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it's like I said, like you show up with it, people forget about it. You're gonna destroy people with it. And then people are gonna be expecting it at the next like 2 or 3 tournaments that you show up to because
The thing is, even if you expect Vaynet Vileplume, it can still be fairly difficult to play around it properly.
fairly difficult, but because you now remember that it exists, you're gonna run less items.
Fewer items, and you'll play differently, but I still think Vaynet Vileplume is still good, even if you're accounting for it. It's not like Articuno Lock where it gets easier to break it. Okay, but Vaynet Vileplume is definitely our first tier 1 contender. Up next is Blacephalon from Unbroken Bonds. Yeah, I think it's straight up bad at this point. It's just not good.
Like I've played it and played against it numerous times. Every time I've played against it, whether it was Dragapult or not, it just never performed the way it did. I mean,
it's
even
not,
when you and I did the bonus videos, it never performed the way it wanted to.
The struggle it always had was it couldn't get the damage out fast enough at a high enough volume consistently.
Yeah, like it could do damage. It just was like basically it's either you hit for kind of big number and then you're just dead in the water, or you hit for low enough number that it just seems like it's tickling the opponent.
And it did frequently feel like we were just tickling the opponent. Yeah. Blacephalon, any thoughts from you?
No. I don't think Big Teeny Prism started any favors to the deck.
I mean, I don't think most of the cards in the deck helped it at all. It just kind of floundered, unfortunately. Up next is Blastoise Waterbox.
I would say
tier 1?
Low tier 1. Yeah.
Low tier 1. Yeah. Do we think it's better or worse than Vaynet?
Under.
Under
because it still does rely very heavily on items.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Buzzwole Pheromosa's pretty much been a non-contender, right?
I would say at the current moment bad, just because like I honestly haven't seen anything about it.
Wasn't there a tier in the last tier list of like we haven't seen enough of it to say? I think that could be in that too.
We'll get at that. Let's see here. What did that do?
I think you shuffled tier 2.
Did I shuffle? I did shuffle the one. Okay. Let's try to add a row. Add a row below.
Because I remember y'all called it Zoroark V-Star tier or something.
Yeah. It was like Zoroark tier.
Okay. We're going to call it missing in action tier.
I think, yeah, Buzzmosa goes there because we don't really know.
We just haven't seen it.
Talk about Celebi Box.
A Celebi Box I think is really fun. I don't think it's good enough to be outside of probably tier 3.
Should we add a fun tier?
No.
Or
I think that's just bad.
bad.
That's just bad. I think probably lower tier 3. I think it's better. It's probably better than both the contenders in there right now, but I don't think it's good enough to be tier 2 or even tier 1.
Because, I mean, my whole thing with the Alakazam start box is it ultimately just really depends on the version of which toolbox you're running.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Cerulege the next time? Trying to figure out what that.
Yes, it is Cerulege. Cerulege is good.
Cerulege, honestly, I would put
upper tier 2.
I would almost say it's even tier 1.
Do you think it's that good? Because it's pretty easy to play around.
Yeah, it is
extremely
consistent. It is very easy to get off, and you hit the numbers.
You do hit numbers, but it doesn't have a great single price matchup.
No, it doesn't.
It actually fails hard to single prices. And if it gets stuck up against something that can hit it for weakness, it frickin' fails.
I mean, it'll nuke anything, though.
I would say above Articuno Lock or below Blastoise.
What are you thinking, guys?
I think it's above Articuno Lock.
So in tier 2 still?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Charizard with Miraidon.
That deck's so messy.
It's a good deck.
I feel like Charizard
Pardon
could
me.
be.
I think it's better than Sarlage.
I think it is too. I think Charizard's at least I think it's tier 1. I don't think it's very high in tier 1, but I think it is tier 1.
I mean, again, my opinion is always going to be biased because I've played against a lot of them. So, like, from my experience on the stuff, it ultimately
It's very
comes
consistent.
down to, like, it is consistent depending on your pricing.
It does fine with pricing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does fine with pricing.
I feel like, ideally, with, like, ideal setup, like, let's just say, like, your pricing is not actually...
Like in a typical game, you're gonna be fine, I think.
Yeah. I would put it, in tier 1.
And then I would say probably below Blastoise, or do you think it's better than Waterbox?
Always better than Waterbox.
You think it's better than Waterbox? What do you think, Caleb?
I feel like it's better than Waterbox on the sole factor that you can actually just grab whatever you
I don't
want.
think it's better than
I
Waterbox.
don't think so either. I think
it's a lot because the thing is, Waterbox has
Greninja.
and that alone makes it easier to get into the Blastoises for your attacks. And I just think that's easier to do than Charizard.
I also think Charizard doesn't have Radiant Greninja in a way that
Mm-hmm.
Blastoise does.
It,
Right.
Radiant Greninja is terrifying.
Yeah, Zard's good. It's not. I think it has a kind of like standard Charizard. It has a bad early game, but its late game is great.
Yeah, that's fair.
Unless you're playing against Hydra.
Well, that's different. Up next is Capparaja. It's just bad, yeah.
I would even put it into Capparaja tier.
It's bad.
I personally think it's better than Banana Star
You think it's better than Banana almost there?
by a long shot. I think either Banana Star should move to bad or Capparaja needs to move up.
Because Capparaja is so inconsistent. Thoughts, Ryan? You're gonna do basically the tiebreaker.
I mean,
'Cause I tried to make it work.
I've seen it,
And
more
I
than-
just ended up
I've
cutting
seen it
Capparaja.
more than Banette Omastar, so I consider it like bad, but
Do you think
like,
Banana
I
almost star is bad?
I do. I mean, I haven't really played against Banette Omastar, but with it losing green, I would agree that like it took a massive.
So do you think Banana almost star is in the wrong tier then?
Swap Capparaja and Banette?
Yeah,
Because like
that's how I
if
feel.
you can actually get the setup with Capparaja,
Yeah,
like
because
it can actually
is
do what it
good.
needs
Like
to do.
Jasmine alone, I
But-
think makes it at least 2-3.
But again, like its setup is just so
Its
bad.
setup is really
The
bad.
Crazy metal saucer with the special metal stuff.
I mean, that's good, but
But-
the problem is I find, especially with some of the newer decks, it doesn't often get to that point. Like, it doesn't make it to that stage.
To be fair, it has been a little while since we've tried anything with it.
I tried. That's actually why Zacian Vox became a deck. Because I tried to. I know. I ended up cutting Capparaja to fix the deck.
I don't think Zacian's very good either, but
Oh, I think it's better than Capparaja.
I disagree.
I think it's a lot better than Capparaja.
I
Oh, it
disagree
is.
very strongly with that.
Law Zone Box.
Which
think that's-
one?
General. I think this is just missing in action.
General missing in action.
Yeah, I think it's missing in action.
Darkrai
is bad. Fusion Dragapult.
Okay, I'm gonna have mixed feelings about this one. I'm gonna say either upper 2, lower 1.
What do you think, Caleb?
Because it can draw
I
like
think it's bad
crazy.
just to spite Ryan.
But
And-
like you can hit the numbers like crazy. And the fact that you can pretty much do big number with just one energy on Dragapult, I do think it is okay. I mean, again, I'm being biased because I created it, but I feel like it is better than Fusion Meloetta.
I would agree with that. I think it was too. Because it runs Meloetta anyway.
Yeah, it's a hybrid of the two. It's literally Dragapult / Meloetta Donk. You can go either route. Which is why I run 3 Meloetta. I would say higher 2, lower 1.
So above Sarlage or lower than Sarlage?
I put it above Sarlage. Because it is primarily a single prizer game.
Yeah, it being
And
able to be a
it
single
can
pressure.
hit the
Although you
very
do
easy-
have the Genesect in play to be tasty.
Yes, but I mean, same thing can be said with Ceruledge, with Squawk, and other stuff.
Yeah. Up next is Durant Mill.
Uh,
I wish.
I would almost put
It's-
Missing in Action just because we haven't seen it in a while.
How do you feel?
Because the last time
think
I
it's
saw it was
mid
when
tier
Dragapult EX was in format.
I think it's above Articuno, beneath Ceruledge.
Do you think it's better than Arcanine? I'm not sure it is. I think it's probably in one of these slots here.
I don't
but-
think you realize that Mill just beats Control. That is just true.
Yeah, but Articuno Lock also runs the Vileplume that basics can't attack.
Yeah, which makes it so that
I've modified my list so that I don't give a fuck.
yeah, we'll have to see that list at some point.
With this direction,
Jirachi Mill.
Missing in Action.
Yeah, I agree. It's not been around for a while. Gardevoir.
Right, tier 3.
I perfectly agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly where it belongs. I think that
think
needs work.
you in order to make it like really perform, like versus just like if you just grabbed it, you have to know that list. You have to know.
You have to know the list, but I think another thing too is the lists that have been used recently. They were for a meta that doesn't match how Gardevoir works right now.
Yeah.
And I can feel that. Like not having the Delta species Gardevoir in the list that I was playing against, was it you?
Yeah, in the mine, it was in the mine matchup.
Completely killed the deck. And that's not the only matchup it would be useful for. There were other matchups that it would be very good in too. And it just doesn't run it like it should. I think that deck needs to be updated in a big way. I think the 4 surprise time machine or 3 surprise time machine is just way too much. I think 1, maybe 2 is absolutely the max. I think the deck needs to be built differently. Speaking of Zoroark,
I think it's better than Guardian.
it's been missing in action. I haven't seen it.
My boy.
Hydrapple.
Well, one of my boys.
I think Hydrapple is tier 1.
I agree.
I think it's
Yeah.
definitely tier 1. The
It's
question
tier
is,
1 when Ryan pilots it. When anyone else pilots it, it's tier 2.
I think so.
I honestly, I think what probably makes it be tier 1. In my
The double
opinion.
attack is really good.
Well, the double attack is really good, but I think what primarily makes it tier 1, honestly, is the fact that I can start the fucking wob.
Yeah, and you always start the wob.
Not always. Just
Yeah, you do.
like
You
90%.
always start the wob. You run a 1 of, it's in your prizes, and somehow it makes it out in the start. I don't know what's up with that, but you know. Hydrapple, tier 1, where do we think it's
I'm technically gonna put it above Charizard because obviously it's gonna hit that weakness matchup.
Well, I'm not worried about weaknesses. I'm just worried about being a better deck in general.
I think it's better than Blastoise.
I think it is
but
too.
beneath Banette.
Yeah,
Bennett.
because it does rely very heavily on items. It ultimately, I think, with
Again,
that
we're not
matchup-
not directly against each other, just in general.
Well, yeah,
Which deck is
but
the better
like it ultimately does like rely a lot on items. So I'm gonna put it below item lock.
Light Jolteon.
Missing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of gone missing. There have been several attempts online to make it work.
Yeah, I've seen.
They've failed
I think it's
catastrophically.
either, like high, bad, or missing.
I'm
I think Light Jolteon took a massive hit with greens going.
yeah, I did. I'm gonna put it in bad. I think it is bad right now until somebody can figure out how to crack it again. Macargo. That's a new deck.
Yeah,
I like
that's
it a lot.
It's really good.
I think
It's really
cool.
good. Yeah, it's
I think it's
scary
like high
actually.
tier 2 at least.
I think I would kind of put it near Charizard actually.
You think it's tier 1?
I think it might be.
It's pretty stinky.
It's pretty
strong.
goddamn strong. Yeah, it's really good.
I don't think it's tier 1 just because we haven't seen enough of it. I would say I would put it above Fusion Drag.
Yeah,
So
I
that'd
can
be
see-
tier 2.
I could see this argument here.
I don't
Oh.
think it's. We haven't like if someone brought it to a tournament, I would say probably tier 1, but because it's just kind of like
It's a very new deck.
It's still very new.
Yeah.
So it's high tier 2, but borderline 1.
It's just there's so many good Macargos and they all work together.
It's really strong.
It's stupid good.
It's
the
so
Magnemite,
strong.
the
Yeah.
Magnemite is pretty easy.
It's so good. Speaking of really interesting new decks, Magnezone box.
Are we saying the one that actually has Iron Hands now, or the one before?
The current list with Iron
I
Hands.
think it's beneath Blastoise box.
You think it's beneath Blastoise? I think it tears Blastoise a new asshole, honestly.
But it's
Yeah.
general.
But like,
Yeah, in general. I
it,
still think it does because it has Iron Hands. I think it tears it a new asshole.
I would definitely say it is above Charizard.
It's definitely above Charizard. I think it's above Blastoise. I don't necessarily know that it's above Hydrapple, but I think it is actually a better deck than
No,
Blastoise.
because I've proven that matchup with Ray multiple times at the height and.
Well, I think, again,
Santiago.
generally consistently, I think Magnezone does better in general against the meta than Blastoise does.
I would say yes.
And I think that's mostly because it's very
consistent.
weirdly consistent. Yes, it's quite consistent as a deck. That's why I think Magnezone is actually better
I
than
would say
Waterbox.
it's better than Blastoise on the sole factor also that like I honestly like yes Blastoise is good but like
They're both like
you don't
it's
see it
not
as
a
much
giant
as
gap.
you do
It's
Magnezone.
not a giant gap. I'll give it that, but I think Magnezone is slightly better.
I think Magnezone is definitely more consistent than Waterbox. So going off of consistency, yes, but I would not put it above Hydrapple.
No, I don't think so either. Hydrapple would eat it alive, consistency wise. Malware. Missing?
Missing.
Yeah, missing. Metacham. You guys haven't seen Metacham at all. I think it's probably mid tier 2. I would put it probably with Alchemy. Maybe here. It's pretty good, and I think with a little bit more tuning, it probably could be really good. Meloetta, just straight Meloetta.
Definitely below Dragapult.
Definitely below Dragapult, agreed.
I would say.
Is it still tier 2, you think?
I would say tier 3.
I would say bottom of tier 2.
It's either
Or
top tier
top of
3
tier 3.
or bottom tier 2.
Seems reasonable.
I honestly don't. I don't want to say tier 2 because it does rely very heavily on special energy.
It also is like very high rolly.
Articuno box would just shut that shit down.
Speaking of decks, Mew VMAX.
Bad.
I think it's bad too. And then Miraidon Pidgeot.
Is this the one that Landon was doing?
Well, the same idea there, not that specific list necessarily.
Same idea. I would say.
I think it's tier 2.
Yeah, I'd say tier
I'd say
2.
beneath Macargo.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It does have some weird weaknesses.
I would say it's almost on par, honestly, with Dragapult. Only because like that matchup could go definitely both ways.
Yeah.
Like very actually evenly too.
Macargo and head-to-head, I bet it would eat Miraidon for lunch though.
Mm-hmm.
Num nums.
Oh, Macargo would be absolutely not having
I
it.
want your sandwiches. Now.
Yeah. Miraidon Turbo.
Bottom of tier 2.
Yeah.
Do you think it's worse than Miraidon Pidgeot?
By a long shot.
Really?
It's high rolly.
I think the peak era for Turbo Miraidon was either the Dragapult EX or Ultra Necrozma. Period.
Huh.
I think that was honestly the peak Turbo Miraidon because you basically had to build it to just outpace those two decks and try to get like as much energy to have attackers on board before they just shut you out.
Blindside Natu. Missing in action?
Yeah.
Ever since Greens, it's been basically gone. Speaking of which, Ultra Necrozma.
It's fallen off.
It has, but I feel like it would be doing really well if it were more popular.
I would say missing in
It's just such an
action.
inconsistent.
I would say missing in like it. Don't get me wrong, it is good, but I feel like because of like how stuff has shifted, you don't see it enough to like really place it right now. Like it is good.
Just put it in missing in action for now.
So
I think it's underplayed for.
I would say put it at the top of missing of action.
That's fair. It's very underplayed. I genuinely think it's better than it's being played.
I think it's honestly it comes down to like one of those instances, just like I was explaining with like the Banette or the Articuno, where it's like people will forget that it exists. It will perform extremely well, and then now people remember it exists, and you're like, shit. Now we got to look out for it.
Yeah. Origin form Palkia V-Star. I think this is probably just worse than Blastoise and Charizard.
I'll put
Personally.
it. I mean, it's definitely tier 2.
You think it's tier 2? I think it's probably still tier 1.
I think it's bottom of tier 1.
I think it's bottom of tier 1 also. Yeah, I don't think it's as good as Blastoise Water Box. I don't think it's as good as Charizard, but I think it's good still. And head to head against these decks, I think it does fine. It's just, it's not. It doesn't have the flexibility these two decks have. Uh,
Turn Crozma on here twice.
it is, as a matter of fact. Let's leave that one off. Palafin EX.
I would say bad or missing.
I mean, it's missing. It hasn't been played a lot locally. It's been played a couple times online, but
I want to try it.
yeah. Palkia Lost Box.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one I almost want to argue 2 points. I definitely do feel like it is tier 1. Because it can really make somebody's day not fun.
It is pretty terrifying when it gets
I would almost argue in the right circumstance, it could make its way into S under the right circumstance because of the Lost Cyclone.
Yeah.
So
it's certainly higher tier
I would
1.
definitely put it above Banette because the issue with everything in that tier right now wants bench. Palkia says
no.
Screw your bench. Balasso and all that shit. So that's why I'm arguing that it could potentially be S because it does not really care about bench. Whereas everything else in tier 1 right now wants big bench.
I mean, Banette doesn't.
Banette, not usually.
Banette was like 3 total Pokemon.
I mean, you kind of want like 4 or 5 actually because you do want a Claydol.
You don't always have Claydol out as Banette.
You want a Vileplume.
You want a Vileplume and a Banette and a backup Banette. That's what you want. You can definitely get away with not having a big bench with Banette.
I would still argue like like I would even.
I still think Palkia is the better deck. Don't get me wrong, but I do think that head to head, Banette's not in trouble.
It's either it's definitely top of tier 1 or low S.
I think top tier 1's fine. What do you think?
I think that's right.
Yeah. Mewtwo and Mew GX
Missing
and dead. Yeah, it's been no show. Raging Bolt Naganadel.
I would say either above Turbo Miraidon. I would put it above Turbo Miraidon.
It's more consistent than Turbo Miraidon.
Yeah. I would put it above Turbo Miraidon, but I don't think it's better than
Thanks to B-String.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's like still in that fine-tuning phase.
It's the biggest problem I think it has is it's kind of a weird mix of single pricers with it.
Yeah.
Like Naganadel's fine, Buzzwell's fine.
Its single price matchup is honestly really bad.
It's not actually that bad.
Really?
No, Naganadel can do fine, and Buzzwell does too. It's fine. Regigigas.
I would say 3.
Killed. I know that's your baby.
As much as it pains me, I think it's top 2, 3.
Top of tier 3.
It's definitely better than Meloetta.
I think so too. It's more flexible than Meloetta.
Because it has more, it has better like kind of matchup fixing, but like I don't think it's 2.
That's fair. Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX.
I think this is our first S.
You think it's still S?
I think it's stupid.
I don't know
That
that
card
it's S.
pisses me off.
I just don't know that it's S.
I would say I don't think it's
It's
as bad
probably
as
high
it
1,
was,
but no.
but I would put it in.
And where in 1?
That's the question. Because Banette can really screw over it.
Is it okay? You were saying you think it's S.
Or
I think
is it
eliminates
the
an
well?
entire
Okay,
variety.
is it the
If a
Garchomp Pokemon?
single card warps an entire format to have to build around it, then yes, it's an S tier card.
But are we actually building around it?
We're not
Literally
building around it.
anything with 120 HP or less has to run multiple bench barriers and stealthy hoods, or it just loses that matchup.
Yeah, but like
I mean, that's
my
true of
decks
Radiant
don't do
Greninja,
that.
too.
Like I don't. I think
That's
for
why
me-
Blastoise Waterbox is so high, is because it can do that stuff.
I
I'm saying
think
Rapid
it's
Strike Urshifu
more.
combined with the Garbodor build, not the Mug build. The Mug build's bad. The Garbodor build, I think that's an S tier deck. I just think it is. It's meta warping, and it has been, even without greens.
Because like the net can actually like really answer that deck.
I don't think that matters though, because against everything else, it still can pump out the multiple KOs and takes them. And with Lost City, it's one of the few decks that can actually abuse that card fully. I think it's insane.
I just don't think it's S tier. I think it's 1.
I'm trying to figure out where I decide because I'm hearing both arguments, but maybe it's just the pilots here locally aren't good. Because it feels like
I think the deck is really good. I think the local people here that play it haven't necessarily been the best.
Yes.
And that kind of gives it a bad rep.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But I think if it's played correctly,
I think
like
if
Christian.
like okay, yeah, if it's actually played correctly by like a correct pilot, I could see yes, maybe the argument for tier S.
So do we should go in S then?
But I mean,
But assuming a good player to actually play, like if Tord Reklev were to pick up the deck of any of these decks,
that's gonna put any of these decks on S tier.
No.
That's not true.
If Tord Reklev is the pilot for all of these decks,
Everything
where does it
is done
land?
by tier.
Does it though? Like is Urshifu, if it's played perfectly like it should be,
If it's played perfectly,
is it?
if it's
S tier?
played perfectly,
Because like my issue there is like with Lost City and stuff.
Because Lost City does make that deck an absolute
Yes,
bitch.
but here's my argument. Lost Cyclone does like the Palkia deck wants stuff in its Lost Zone.
Okay.
Like Lost City's not gonna affect it, but like I honestly
I think you're just too stuck up on like the individual.
Yeah, we're not talking about individual matchups. We're talking about in general.
Like just because something else is above it does not mean that it's gonna absolutely beat the decks beneath it every time. There's still bad matchups that exists.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
just a general meta overview thing, and I think Urshifu beats a lot of decks faster than they can set up, and then sends things to the Lost Zone faster than like they can keep up.
under
So-
perfect circumstance, sure, low S tier, but like
I agree, it's low S
But
tier, not top
with-
S.
It's definitely not like Dragapult was.
with the
Dragapult was
with the
absolutely
local
terrifying.
pilots that pilot that thing, that is not S tier.
Well, the logo pilots, it's like tier 3.
Yeah, I agree with that.
SP control.
I think that's around the Palkia range, frankly.
I think it is too. I think it might even be low S.
I don't disagree.
I think it's probably right up there with Urshifu.
Yeah, I mean that one is definitely, and this one I can't even honestly do a matchup type because like this thing
It just has fine matchups against basically
it
everything.
has fine matchups. So I will say it is definitely you can definitely play around it, but I mean that's any deck. Like you can play around any deck as long as you know what it does. But like if I sat down at the table and you had no idea what I was doing with that deck, you would get destroyed by it.
Yeah, and very quickly at that.
Because the way that I built that deck is literally to just shut you out. And while I'm shutting you out, either I take no damage from you because all your attackers are EX, because I actually did update mine to where it now runs neutralization zone.
Mm-hmm.
So now I item lock you and stadium lock you, so you can't bump it unless you play Pokemon Ranger, which a lot of decks don't for some reason.
I don't have room.
Like you're just not gonna get through the wall. And then let's say like I get to the point where it's like, okay, I don't care about item locking you or stadium lock you. I'm gonna play my Glimwood Tangle and literally just lost in all your energy.
Yeah.
So then I'm gonna make it to
The
where
one
you
thing I
literally
will say
just
about
can't
that deck
attack.
is it seems a little slow. It's a
It-
little on the
It
slow
is.
side.
It
If
is
you can
on the
outpace
slow.
it, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
don't
not every deck can outpace it. Even some of the ones that can don't always.
Yeah.
I do still think it belongs in S. It's a very good deck.
I'm not sold on S, but
I think it's lower. It's definitely lower than Urshi.
I just think it's top of tier 1, but I don't.
Well,
I'm not gonna fight over it being.
I mean,
also-
okay, so this is my biased opinion still. I do think it is better than Lost Palkia. But the thing is with Lost, like my argument with Lost Palkia is definitely top of tier 1, but I was already arguing low tier S with Palkia.
And I think
And the
I
fact
think
that
S control's
Dialga
better.
is better than it, like I would put it like low S.
So do we want to say that Palkia is just the gatekeeper of tier 1? Or of S tier?
It seems to be the top deck for 1, which would make it basically the gatekeeper. I think that's fair.
Okay.
And like literally the main thing about Palkia is literally just the Lost Cyclone.
Spiritomb,
I don't know about this.
bad.
Is this the one that you had me try with the damage counters on the
Yep.
Spiritomb? Yeah, bad.
And I've tried making it work again. It's still
I
bad.
think it's worse than Blissey.
I don't. I think it's more consistent than Blissey.
Turtle.
It's not good, but it's not better. It's not worse than Blissey. Terrapagos.
Is it the one that I built? Is it the one we're saying? Mega Ray?
It's the Moltres. That's the trio, bird trio.
Oh, I have no context. On
It's
that.
very good. It's probably tier 1. I'll put it near Palkia, I think.
That
Uh,
guy?
Yes, it's very good. Ryan, have you played against
What
it?
does that do?
I've seen it, but I haven't played against it.
I don't know what that deck does.
All right, so that's Terrapagos. Once you guys got the fresh list in your head, what are you thinking? I think it's around Palkia. I think it's 1 too. It's very good.
Well, if you're saying it's around Palkia, then that would put it be above the net.
He's saying Palkia V-Star.
Oh, okay.
It's confusing having 2 Palkias.
I would put
Yeah,
it
fair.
honestly. I would.
I mean, I had the cursor on the Palkia star, but yeah, I think it's probably better
Yeah, I
than
think it's
Palkia.
better than Palkia.
Torterra.
Actually, well, no, I was about to be like, oh, well, no matchups.
Torterra.
That's
Are we going to
gonna be-
consider that missing in action, or do you think it's
Mm,
got a little bit still?
I think it's beneath Articuno.
You think it's in 2?
Yeah.
So like
Because it's surprisingly consistent for
Here.
what it is. Yeah, I think it's there.
okay, I'm going to fight that.
I think Grand Bloom GX alone makes that deck stupid.
Makes it decent
Yeah,
for sure.
I would agree with that.
I'm still not certain on whether the straight Torterra build is better or with the Garbotoxin trying to turn one ability lock.
Did I play against the Garbotoxin one?
You've probably played against both. Garbotoxin was the original list.
I've only played against it once, and that was when we were at San Antonio.
The original list had Garbotoxin in it.
Okay, so then
I ran 4 float stones.
then I've
Yeah.
played against the straight Torterra. Then
Toxtricity, Rainbow Road.
that's yours.
I'd put it around Alcremie, just in the same ballpark.
I think it's much worse than Alchemy, unfortunately. I think it's tier 3, probably less than Grassbox, honestly.
No, I haven't context, so I couldn't tell you.
Alchemy is more consistent. Toxtricity is good, but having to have specifically a react energy attached does slow you down. So, and then like a Ditto is more flexible energy wise anyway. And then Serena is just missing in action. That's not been doing. This is a duplicate. United Wings.
United Wings.
It's tier 1 for sure.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because so
It's probably bottom of tier 1.
I would either
think
put
tier
it
1.
bottom of tier 1 or like right above maybe Macargo.
It's
because-
too consistent of a deck.
The
to not
thing
be
is,
at
it's
the-
very consistent. It can
It's also
come out
really easy to shut it down though. Really, like
viable.
Vileplume does it.
All your battle compressors. by the
Yeah,
time you're
okay. Well, I mean, if we're talking about easily shutting it down, then we're talking about like the matchups again.
You know, and we're talking about the basic blocker because even if it can manage to get that stuff out, there's a chance that they've discarded all their stuff.
Because like
to deal with it.
that goes back to like where we're talking about matchups, which you said you really didn't want to do.
Well, that's what we're doing. It's just in general.
I think given how simple and straightforward it is, how
I would put it
quickly
above
gets
Macargo.
up.
Because it's very straight and simple.
Well, this is where
it hits big
not even
number.
that probably. I would probably I'm leaning toward here. It's where I'm leaning
It is
toward.
definitely above Ceruledge because it basically does what Ceruledge wants to, but just for basic Pokemon.
That's fair. It basically has the same strategy as
Yeah,
Ceruledge.
it's the same strategy. Ceruledge just basically is a higher HP United Winger.
Caleb, you're still arguing for tier 1, right?
I think it's tier-
I think it's either top.
Oh,
I think it's either top more higher in.
Okay, so you're saying you think it's tier 1. You're saying you think it's above Macargo.
It's either above Macargo or bottom.
I just don't see it. I think it's basically the same strategy as Ceruledge. I think it's better than Ceruledge because it is basics.
Well,
But I still think it's that same
can hit
ballpark.
big number really fast, which can
But
actually...
can it really
It
though?
hits great weaknesses too. I think it's really good.
Granted, it absolutely gets destroyed by Urshifu.
Yeah.
I mean, it does, but it gets destroyed by a couple. Like it gets murdered by Hydrapple. It gets murdered by Palkia. It gets murdered by
it definitely gets
it gets murdered by Magnezone. It gets murdered by Blastoise. It does fine against Charizard. It probably does okay against.
I think its best
Nope.
matchup.
It gets murdered by Terrapagos. It gets murdered by Palkia.
I think its best matchup in the tier 1 is probably Charizard.
Yeah, I think that's the only good matchup in tier 1. I don't think it belongs in tier 1.
Why does it have a bad matchup against Magnezone?
Hands just claps it.
Hands.
I just don't feel like. I don't feel like that's true. Sure.
No, because we were talking about that.
I feel like Wings is just faster. By the time my hands are set up, you've
Well,
taken 2 prize cards already, so you're gonna stay ahead anyways.
It's definitely below. I don't know. I just have mixed feelings about it. It's definitely at least minimum tier 2.
Well, it's tier 2. I think it's just for sure tier 2. Personally, I think it's basically the same strategy. Ceruledge, I think it's better than Ceruledge, but I think it basically is in the same ballpark. I could see putting it ahead of Dragapult. I could even see putting it ahead of Pidgeot and Miraidon.
See, that one I probably wouldn't agree with because that still has Iron Hands. And
It does, but like I can at least try to see the argument because it's slower with the Pidgeot instead of the Turbo. But like,
not my version.
it's just slower. I don't say it was slow.
That's like mine still runs like 15 energy.
Like I basically lean one of these 2 slots here.
It's definitely above Ceruledge.
Yeah, it's not below Ceruledge. It's just basically which side of Dragapult it sits on, in my opinion. Like which one has the better matchup? It's probably United Wings because Ceruledge or Dragapult has to evolve up, but. I don't know. This is gonna be a question for the audience because obviously we don't quite agree on this one. Where do you think United Wings belongs on this tier list? Do you think it belongs in tier 1? Where on tier 1 if you think it belongs there? If you think it belongs in tier 2, where do you think it belongs in tier 2? If you don't think it belongs in either of those tiers, where do you think it belongs? Let us know in the comments.
Outside of the trash can.
The trash can, yes. Definitely not, I don't think it's bad, and I definitely think it's missing in action.
No,
it's good.
It's
definitely
minimum
better.
2.
I don't think it's in 3 either. I think it's definitely 2 or 1, but
Yeah.
definitely not S.
Definitely.
Blissey.
Blissey?
Blissey V. I think this is probably in the same ballpark as
See, I haven't
Gardevoir or Mellow. I think it's probably like here-ish on tier
outside
3.
of the Weezing, I haven't played against any other of those.
Have you played against Blissey, right? Or is it just Rose played against Blissey?
No.
Alright, then I'm gonna have to be the sole voice for that one. I think Blissey belongs more or less here.
Better than Guardy?
Yeah, I do think it's better than Guardy. Not by a lot, but I think it is. At least better than the current Guardy lists that we have. Guardy, I think once it fixes itself, might be better, but we'll see. Zacian V. Turbo Zacian V.
Bad.
I don't think so.
I think it's
All right, so you said bad, but Zacian I don't think belongs in bad. I think it's better than that.
above
I think it is too.
I think it's above Caparaja, but
I don't think it's in tier 3. I think it's low tier 2, but I don't think it's in 3.
Well, then we would have to throw Caparaja down a tier because we already said it was better than Caparaja earlier. So then that would put.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
You said it's not tier 3.
Yeah, Zacian is not tier 3.
You're saying
Yeah,
it's tier 2.
I think Zacian belongs in tier 2.
Oh, okay. now I understand what you're saying. Okay, never mind.
I still think it's low end on tier 2, but I still think it
I
belongs in
think
tier
it's
2.
bottom. You don't think it's bottom?
Bottom of tier 2?
I think it's bottom of tier 2.
I think that's fair. I think very bottom of tier 2 is probably where it
Yeah.
belongs.
Because Turbo Miraidon is definitely more consistent than that thing.
Is it though?
Yeah, actually.
I know Caleb does not agree. I think well, make your argument for it, because this is gonna be one of those things where the viewers can jump in too. Why do you think?
Because it's either bottom of tier 2 or it's definitely above Paparaja, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's probably above Reggie's,
I mean, it's more consistent than
and
Reggie's.
it's definitely below Gardevoir. So it's either bottom of tier 2 or it's below Gardevoir, but above Paparaja.
I'd agree with that assessment.
Or either being
It's
bottom
just
of
the
tier
deck
2.
is not special at all. It doesn't do anything interesting, and it just folds to single price matchups. Like, it has the same issues Darkrai v Star.
So would you put it
It
actually
doesn't do
below
anything special.
Guardy but above Celebi?
I would put it above Blissey if we're gonna put it in tier 3.
Yeah, but I don't
think it's
I
better
don't
than
think it's
Gardevoir.
better than Gardevoir. I think Gardevoir is better than it.
I agree.
Gardevoir is not consistent though.
Gardevoir at
It's
least
still better
does a
than
lot of cool
Zacian.
stuff.
From what
Zacian
I've seen of
same
Zacian,
thing.
like Gardevoir is better than it.
Here, I got 2 words for you, buddy. Jet energy.
What about it? You don't need it. You don't need it.
No, I know where he's going. I know where he's going.
You don't need a jet energy. I think it's fine without it.
You're missing his joke.
I get the joke. I still think it matters. I agree that it doesn't have the best single price matchups, but it can handle them.
Well, but the thing is, it's either bottom
V-Star.
of tier 2 or it's below Gardevoir, and in between.
Do?
Have a lot of
Because
HP and hit hard.
What is that going to do against single pricers?
Survive.
If you're lucky.
yeah, but I honestly just it's either bottom of tier 2 or it's below Gardevoir. But above Gardevoir.
I think if it's bottom of tier 2 or below Gardevoir, then Gardevoir's in the wrong spot.
I mean, then at that point, we put Gardevoir above Zacian in tier 2.
I don't think Gardevoir belongs in tier 2.
But that's the thing is like either Zacian is either bottom of tier 2 if we're making that argument, but I honestly, in my honest opinion, I do not think it's better than Gardevoir. Because honestly, I feel like it can brick a lot easier than Guardy.
Zacian?
Yeah.
No.
It's so reliant on hitting the metals. It's
What I'm hearing is Gardevoir's in the wrong spot.
But if we're saying Gardevoir,
Guardy could go top of tier 3. I
so
think
if we put Guardian top of tier 3, then that would put Zacian like kind of similar top tier 3.
I'm good with that. I think Gardevoir should be the gatekeeper for tier 3.
Yeah, it's definitely better than a lot of stuff. And yeah, I think it's just in the wrong. I think it was just in the wrong spot.
Because like I mean, like the thing is like I just don't think from what I have seen from both decks, Zacian is more inconsistent than Guardy.
I don't agree at all.
I don't agree with that either, but I think Guardy is still the better deck.
I think with a better list, Gardevoir would be. I think with the current list, it's not.
I think a great Guardy list would be like
I think so too. We don't have that right now. Wugtrio Mill, I think is
Yes.
it's. I think it's just bad, unfortunately, and it has seen play recently
with Glimwood and Wilbing.
with Glimwood and Will. It's
deck. It's better than everything we have.
it's
Yeah,
just
but
Mine.
only one of those
Perfect.
coin flips is heads.
Yeah, it's the first one you're always gonna miss, and then you always hit the other 2. So you
Unless
just
you
gotta
mean-
guarantee the first.
I think it's either in bad or low tier 3. I don't think it's
I
anywhere
think it's
else.
bad.
It's definitely worse than Durant.
It is. It is. Although when it does really well, it can hit. Like if it flips really well, it can hit crazy high numbers.
It's
But
very-
it doesn't.
It's a very lucky list.
It's super luck based, which is why it's not
give,
so good.
Just give me the die.
Stop. Up next, Weezing.
Next tier. I wish it was. It's so strong though. It's such a strong.
It does really well against VMAXs.
It does good against. It has a great like two prize matchup almost every time. It just outtrades anything.
Here's the question: is it 2?
Or 3.
I think it's better than Macargo. I think it's top of tier 2.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I wouldn't put it in tier 1. Just
I
because
definitely don't think it belongs in 1.
the tier 1 decks all are able to like do multi pings and snipes, and that's kind of what Weezing folds to a lot of the time. But I think a lot of the tier 2 decks don't really do that, and because of that, it beats all of them.
Because I think
It
the
beats
main
most
thing
of
that
the
kills Weezing in the Urshi matchup is the city.
Now, the thing that kills Weezing in the Urshi matchup is the Garbotoxins, because you can't protect your bench.
Well, it's the Garbotoxin and it's the Lost City. Because you're getting rid of the thing that can just one-shot the Urshi, essentially.
Okay, so I don't think it belongs in 1.
Well,
I don't think it's one.
No, it's
I
not.
think it's high 2.
I think it's low. I think it's mid, maybe mid 2.
I would honestly.
It's probably better. It's definitely better than Sarah-Ledge. It's.
Do we want to put it between Sarah-Ledge and Durant?
I think I think it's better than Sarah-Ledge.
Oh, it's I thought you said.
I think it's better than Sarah-Ledge. Like I could see putting it here.
It's just that like I think it's. I don't know. I think it's better than Macargo.
Because Macargo's shtick is basically do high number rather consistently. And I think it's good at doing that. That's basically the same shtick that Weezing has, but it's less consistent.
Well, Weezing's not necessarily hitting big numbers.
It's effective. It's effectively the same idea. You're still blowing things up.
Weezing is effectively just one shot, whatever you see.
Yeah.
As long as it can be poisoned.
And it doesn't have a whole lot of hard counters. Like, there's an ability lock doesn't kill it. Item lock doesn't really kill it. Like, it doesn't have, like, those sorts of...
If they get rid of your bench barriers, though.
Yeah, but I've built mine in such a way that it's very difficult for them to do that. I need to bust that out at some point.
I think you do. I mean, I need to see a little bit more play. I think this is a good spot for it for right now.
Visit it, like we can have a better understanding of where it puts.
I just think it beats Miraidon. I think at least put it above.
I would agree with the Miraidon assessment because like you're actually keeping equal on that price trade, even if they have Iron
but that goes down to a 1-to-1 on that particular matchup.
I think United.
Like in general, Miraidon's probably the better deck.
United Wings, I definitely feel like could easily deal with Weezing.
Well, I mean, that's the problem Weezing has is single prize matchup.
It really it can.
That's why I think it's where
it's the late game that Weezing really struggles with.
That's more or less why I put it where it did because look, it doesn't handle single prize matchups very well.
Outside of the Miraidon, it's basically single prizers.
And Miraidon can still handle the trade.
Because the other thing with Dragapult is I also have the Dracloaks in there, so like I could use that as my pseudo draw engine rather than benching a Genesect and giving you a 2-prizer.
Yeah. Do you think it's fair where I put Weezing?
No, but I'm not.
Ryan?
I would agree with. My thing is I just haven't seen Macargo, so I don't really want to get into that argument, but I think it could go back and forth with Miraidon. It loses to United. It can very easily lose to Dragapult. It's better than Sarah-Ledge.
It probably loses to Durant. But
Weezing loses to it. It has 2.
But I think it does just fine against Articuno Lock.
Weezing? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It does perfectly fine.
But now we're getting back into...
Well, it's not even a matter of matchups. It's like how is it doing in its own tier? I think it's fun. I think it's fun.
I just cannot argue whether it's above or below Macargo because I haven't seen Macargo, so
you need to watch that game. And then that leaves just one. I think that's leaves one more deck, and that's this Iron Valiant Badoo deck that's
Bottom
terrifying
of
online. Bottom of bad. It's probably better than bottom of bad. Maybe top of bad.
Maybe
It's
above
either
medium
top bad
max.
or below Copperage.
It's so the idea obviously is that you're spreading a bunch of damage counters and you're knocking stuff out and item locking using the Veltal GX to do an instant KO and stuff. This is loses very hard to ability lock and doesn't do super hot against item lock. It's probably not bad tier. It's probably 3. But
I honestly think it loses a lot more to item lock over ability lock.
No, the ability lock really shuts the whole deck down.
I think it's better than. It's probably better than Copperage, but I wouldn't put it any higher than that.
I could put it above Alakazam. I could even put it above Toxtricity.
I wouldn't put it higher.
That's probably about where I'd land it though.
Low mid.
Here. The biggest reason it's popped up is because it has seen quite a bit of success in the online tournaments lately. I don't know. I mean, it's just what everybody else is playing online that
It's so
it's.
confusing why it's doing well.
I
It just doesn't
don't
seem
understand
like
why
a
it's
good
doing
deck.
very well. It's
Like, it's a one-trick pony at the end of the day.
It's just
I don't
like switch-
understand. Yeah.
switch lots of times and drop damage counters and hope
The
that
thing
works.
with like one trick ponies, depending on what type of one trick pony it is extremely easy to actually counter them.
Yeah. I don't know. It's clearly like I said, it's clearly doing okay online. It's won a fair number of tournaments recently, so it definitely can't be considered a bad deck. I just don't see it outside of tier 3 though.
I can't wait to see all the Discord comments about it.
I know they're gonna lose their minds that we put it this low because I know some people think it's like the most impressive deck
It's
ever.
not.
I just don't
Badoo
see
is
it.
Fine, get over yourselves.
Yeah.
It's just people want to cry wolf because it's a free attacker item lock.
We've had that forever. Man.
Yeah, like Iron Valiant is strong. Yes, Iron Valiant's been on the red list since it came out, but it also hasn't come off it for a reason. Like I don't know. It's
Like I honestly don't think Iron Valiant is as broken as people think it is.
it's good.
It's
good,
just you
but
have to build a deck around it.
you do,
It
and
takes so
and
much
the deck
space.
is built around it. It does have a lot of switching
Yeah.
options. You have the escape ropes or warp points or whatever.
Shit,
You have switches. You have Bird Keeper. You have cards. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's. It like it. To me, at least, it feels like it folds to a lot in tiers 1 and 2.
I would like to see how its United Wing matchup goes though.
Oh, it would probably. It would be playing. It'd be like playing popcorn popping on that. We'll just watch the birds explode.
What is that song? Flight of the Angels or something?
I, Iron Valiant Badoo would definitely absolutely wreck United Wings this day. That would not be a good matchup for United Wings. That would be absolutely devastating. I think
The birds be like, "What's going on? They haven't even attacked and they wiped out half our numbers."
it's like why are all these bullets coming from?
The only thing that would actually survive is the freaking flamingos.
All right, so that brings us to a quick revisit before we wrap it up. S tier, Urshifu, and SP Control.
Our S tier is so small.
I mean, that's fine.
I mean, we had
honestly.
3 last time,
It's
but like one of them
wild
I
that
honestly didn't
those
think
two
was.
are the S tier contenders and nothing else.
And they're both like lower S tier too.
Yeah, they're not even like
Yeah, they're
Because like
good.
the whole reason why Urshifu's in there is like it honestly like it's a really strong deck, but
Mm.
I ultimately think it just comes down to its pilot, whether the pilot can actually make it the S tier that it can be, or if it's the low 2 or 3 tier that they can usually make it.
Yeah, playing it poorly definitely is especially bad. Like some decks you can play poorly and they'll still function. Urshi's not one of
I would
those.
agree that Urshifu ultimately it depends on its pilot whether or not it can be consistent S or 2.
Tier 1, Palkia Lost Box, Bayonet Vileplume, Hydrapple, Festival Grounds, Magnezone Box, Water Box, Charizard, Terrapagos Birds, and Palkia V-Star. That's an interesting tier 1. That is not what I'd have expected 6 months ago. I would have expected Bayonet and probably Zard and Water Box and none of the rest of it.
I think that, I mean, again, this is me being biased because I created it. I think the whole thing with the Palkia box is because that tournament that we did here, I think that really showcased how devastating that deck could actually truly be.
And then our tier 2 is Macargo, Miraidon Pidgeot, United Wings, Fusion Dragapult. I was gonna say Destiny Bond Weezing. That's not what it's called. Liability Weezing, Theraledge, Durant Mill, Articuno Lock, Terapagos, Metacham, Alcremie.
Terapagos?
What is it, Terapagos?
You mean Torterra?
Torterra, yes. I'm clearly tired. Torterra, Metacham, Alcremie, Raging Bolt, and Turbo Miraidon.
I bet I heard him say turtle Miraidon.
I
Are
mean,
you turtly enough for the turtle club?
I'm very turtly right now. My brain is so slow. Tier 3, we have Gardevoir, Zacian, Regigigas, Meloetta, Blissey, Celebi, Iron Valiant, Toxtricity, Alakazam Star, and Copperajah.
Justice for my boy Copperajah.
You just gotta make it. You just gotta make it really good, and then it'll be fine. Its biggest problem, in my opinion, is consistency. It just doesn't do what it needs to fast enough. And then our straight up bad tier, Wugtrio Mill. I think it probably could go up to 3, but it's really freaking
If
flippy.
it goes up to 3, then it's below top.
I think that would be fair. But it's really
And that's
luck based.
very low bar.
Yeah. And then we have Spiritomb, Blacephalon, Banette, Omastar, Darkrai, Light Jolteon fell so hard. Greens was huge for that deck.
VMAX,
VMAX has been bad. I don't know why. I shouldn't have even had it on this list.
Yeah, I was gonna say we shouldn't even put that on the list because we always talk about how that thing loses so.
It loses
easily
really hard to
any
everything.
dark type attacker.
It loses hard to everything. Like if Darkrai V-Star can beat your ass, stay out of the format. Like, come on.
I mean, Ancient Box can just easily.
Oh, Ancient Box murders it. A lot of these decks do. And then our missing in action decks. These are the ones that maybe need to see a little bit more play. Ultra Necrozma, Buzzmosa, the generic Lost Box.
I would argue the only things that are the missing into action that could potentially I would say potentially see making the next time we do one of these videos is Ultra Necro, Zork. Yeah, just
So anyway, what I was saying, missing action, Ultra Necrozma, Buzzwole Pheromosa, generic Lost Box, Jirachi Mill, Hisuian Zork V-Star, Malamar Box, Blindside Natu, Palafin EX, Mewtwo and Mew GX, and Serena EX. I think those are all just kind of
because the issue
not
with
played
Mew
enough.
is it's a 3-prizer.
It's a 3-prizer that's not got a great weakness.
What's its weakness? Is it Psychic?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Actually, that's
For some
interesting
reason, I
thought.
want to say Psychic.
Let me see.
Because if it's Psychic, oh my god, that thing just gets shredded.
Let's see here. I don't remember. It's been too long since I played that deck. It is indeed Psychic.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that's unpleasant.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Psychic in this.
Yeah. I mean,
That means Banette. That means Banette just crushes it.
United Wings, Banette, freaking Meloetta, Fusion Dragapult. All those are just ooh, easy 3-prizer. Don't mind if I do.
But that is going to be it from us today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our little discussion of the Eternal Format meta and how it has shifted since Twilight Masquerade. It has shifted quite a bit.
Is it bad that I would even argue that Mew VMAX is better than Mew Mew in Eternal?
I don't know that that's true, actually. VMAX is Mew is more versatile, I think. Anyway, that's it from us for us today. We'll see you guys in the next one.